Hello and welcome back to Pure Michigan Sports. It's episode 14, which is sort of hard to believe that we're already that far in, but we are sort of into the dog days of summer now, which usually come with sort of less interesting topics, but we've got NBA and NHL free agency along with a very cool little idea that Alex had. We'll be ranking top 5 Detroit sports centers. That's not
Yeah,
just,
I
yeah.
I don't know how my brain comes up with this shit, I swear, but I was thinking the other day, I was like, okay, just the center is the term for a position in 3 out of the, 4 major sports teams we have. And you had asked originally when we talked about it, like, I guess maybe you can include center field, but I feel like
It's a
in at
stretch.
least 2 of them, you can make the argument that not as much for hockey, but at least like in basketball and in football, the center is kind of a bit of an anchor.
Mm.
In a way. And I think like, it was just one of those weird things that came to mind, but I didn't really think center field was really acted as an anchor in baseball. But it'll be interesting. I don't know if it's something that I'm like subconsciously forgetting I've seen before.
Mm.
Um, so if I am, please let me know. But I just kind of was like, what if we just did one of those? So that should be interesting. And yes, like you said, um, a pretty big week overall in the sports world with free agency starting in both the NBA and the NHL. And I remember still getting that reaction from you about the Tobias Harris signing, which I guess we could start off with that.
We
And I,
can.
I thought I expected a much angrier reaction because I was even like, what the hell? $52 million for a guy that played for us so long. It feels like it was forever ago when he played for us. And I guess in my head, I'm just like, okay, so he's old and we just paid $52 million for a guy that wasn't even a standout on the Sixers.
We yeah, I think if longtime listeners or watchers of the show will remember when we first sort of hit the end of the season, the playoffs were still going on, but the end of the Pistons season, and we sort of went, all right, apparently there's names getting thrown around like Nick Claxton and Malik Monk, and free agency sort of took those away from us before we even got there. I remember we talked to Bryce Simon, our sort of NBA insider for the show, and of Motor City Hoops and Pistons Pulse fame and all these different things. Definitely hit him up on socials and all that. He's got a great show, but part of what he told us was those are the two big names is Malik Monk and Nick Claxton, because what are the two things the Pistons really need as far as on the floor? Yeah, shooting and rim protection. And you could say, well, those two things make up like half of the sport of basketball. And you're like, well, that's sort of true. It's just where the Pistons are at. But the another thing the Pistons need that's not necessarily on the floor, but just in general, they need a veteran presence or veteran presences, plural, because it's such a young team. And we talked about Troy Weaver, the former GM, making a bunch of moves that you looked on paper and were like, oh, that's not bad. Oh, we picked up him. Oh, we picked up him. We got this cap space, dead cap space. We got an expiring contract. That's cool. And then you looked up sort of at the product on the floor and you went, oh, this is kind of really fucking ugly. And that was one of the things was you didn't really have a ton of like good positive sort of role model veteran guys. And it's definitely an overpay. Alex, you're exactly right. You hit that nail on the head. We're paying a lot of money for Tobias Harris. But there weren't a lot of other people to take the Pistons' money. Malik Monk already re-signed with Sacktown before free agency even truly hit. Nick Claxton re-signed with the Nets. Isaiah Hartenstein, who the Pistons were eyeing as sort of an
That's
anchor
not a real
center.
name. That's not a real name.
It does seem like a sort of Russian covert op type name.
I feel like
But
it should be Isaiah Hart.
they,
Like,
they had he
like,
was teammates with Josh Hart, so you couldn't do both.
true, true.
But
No disrespect, but your name is fake.
no, he's real good, and he's one of those guys that you sort of. Um, I think if it was in a different free agency class, we might have gotten a shot at him. But the fact that he was the best center available in free agency is a little bit sad because he's not exactly a household name or anything. But he's good. He's a solid offensive rebounder, good sort of that OG white guy, sort of like, oh, he brings the hustle and he brings heart and grit, but he also is a really solid defensive anchor. And the Pistons would have needed that, but couldn't get him. He went to the Thunder, and we can talk about that. That's just what the Thunder need. I think they've done some upgrading in the free agency spot here. But there's not exactly, if you want shooting or rim protection and a veteran presence, there's no one else to throw money at. And the Tobias Harris is a name that Pistons fans already know. He had, as Alex mentioned, a stint with Detroit already where he played pretty well. It was a different team then, and you were sort of leaning on him as almost your number 2 scorer. We traded for him from Orlando, I believe it was, mid-season, and he was on that sort of Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, KCP team. Marcus Morris on that squad too.
Wow, that's a
Whole
blast from the past.
Right, that's a whole other discussion. But that
Yeah.
team needed a star. It just had a bunch of dudes that could give you like 12 to 15 points, but no one that could give you 20. Different discussion for a different time. But Tobias Harris gives you really what you need, which is a shooter next to Cade and a veteran presence. And him alongside a former Michigan man in Tim Hardaway Jr., who the Pistons also picked up, is a nice little boost of floor spacing, because we've complained for so long that we don't put shooters next to Cade, and those two names don't just magically fix the problem and that goes away. But it's nice to see some guys that can actually shoot with volume, shoot with confidence, and to an extent get their own bucket outside of Cade, put that next to him. We also signed Cade to an extension, which at least on this show was sort of a little bit of point of fear of hope.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've done enough to get him back. But I think so far, and it's so hard to judge a GM off of a couple of weeks, but Trajan Langdon, I think, starting off on the right foot as the new, and he's not the GM, but he's president of basketball ops, which is sort of a made up position for him that's filling in, I guess, for GM right now.
Do you like, I guess, also starting off on that foot? What do you think about their new coach?
Yeah, JB Bickerstaff, the continues the Pistons streak of hiring fired coaches right after they were fired. So Dwayne Casey gets fired, wins Coach of the Year, gets fired from Toronto. We pick him up like that. Monty Williams fired, same thing. Snap your fingers, throw a ton of money at him to get him to come here. Did not work out at all. And then same thing, he gets fired from the Cavs, and here he comes, or here we come knocking on his door. I'm not mad at it at all. The Cavs, we've complained a little bit on this show that there were 2 teams that started their rebuild at the same time as the team on my shirt right now, the Cavs and the Magic, and they both have sort of skyrocketed well above us. And he coached just a little bit, but he skyrocketed well above, or he sort of helped them skyrocket well above us. He was a really good coach, sort of training and pointing the young talent in the right direction. And it's sort of interesting when you judge a fired coach by the fans of that fired team. and Twitter can be an ugly place sports wise, especially in the NBA. It tends to get sort of odd and overtly negative very quickly. But
I feel like
essentially,
that's Twitter though.
That's Twitter. That's fair.
Like
that's
you can see that with anything. I still remember God, this was a while. I'll save it for. Remind me to tell my story when we get to our Red Wings portion. But Twitter's a nasty place,
be a nasty
and I've
place.
definitely never contributed to that stereotype.
We here at Pure Michigan Sports have very clean Twitter records, of course. But the sort of jury going out on him essentially was struggled come playoff time, didn't make adjustments the way he needed to, blah, blah, blah. But the point the Pistons fans should be focusing on, or hopefully are, is he did a really good job developing young talent and getting us there. I don't know, if we can even get to the playoffs, if this team gets to a point where we're complaining, talking about playoffs, Here's my thing, and maybe I'll eat my words in a couple of years. Hopefully, I do, but hopefully you follow here. If we get to a point where we're complaining about Coach Bickerstaff's performance in the playoffs, we've already won. You know what I mean? Like
We can't. Is that your way of like putting a positive spin on the fact that we can't go lower than we already have?
we can't go lower than we already have. It's like saying, it's like
What a
looking at
spin
the,
zone.
it's like looking at the Tobias Harris deal and going, well, he chokes in the playoffs. Like that doesn't fucking matter. We're not making it that far. We'll be a-okay. So if your complaints are Bickerstaff doesn't adjust well in the playoffs, and Tobias is a historical being the last 2 years choker come big playoff moments, then we're a-okay because that's not going to matter. But that sort of kicks off here our half dozen. We always love starting the show with what we call the Michigan half dozen. So the four main teams: Pistons, Lions, Tigers, Wings, all of the new and hot news from them. And then a little bit of Michigan and Michigan State. Obviously, that becomes a much bigger part of the show when the athletic year truly starts again.
I want to fast forward to August so bad.
It's
Like it's
it'll be
not like
nice.
not that it like now is not fun, but like
You need the points where you don't have it to make having it all that much better,
that's a
which
fact.
is way
That's a
easier to
fact.
say now, but like it sort of builds the anticipation. I think the only real big Michigan or Michigan State news until we start to get our preseason polls and all that sort of stuff is a former Michigan man, Tim Hardaway Jr., back with the Pistons in his home state. So that's nice to see, and hopefully he can be a nice little addition for the Pistons, spacing wise, on an expiring contract. And then another Michigan man, as NBA free agency starts, Mo Wagner, got a new deal with Orlando, 2 years, $22 million.
Where's his
Uh,
brother at?
his brother is also on the Magic. Those
Franz?
two,
They're both.
yeah.
Wow.
Franz is definitely turning into a better NBA prospect, certainly a better defender, which we sort of always knew. The length and the foot speed are definitely there that Mo sort of
Mo
doesn't,
did not have.
does not have it all. But he's
Nope.
still, I mean, the archetype, if you remember what he did at Michigan, the floor spacing big that can put the ball on the ground, that's
Yeah.
sort of what the modern NBA needs. And obviously, it'd be great and he'd be more playable if he could defend better. But 2 years, 52 million is, I think, reflective sort of his value in the league, which is a decent deal. And he's definitely a contributor on a team in Orlando that added KCP, that re-signed a couple of other guys like Gary Harris, that you sort of look at as, they might be able to be a top four seed in the East this year. If they're top four, they'll be fourth, but still, nice little move there, and good to see a Michigan man succeeding. Not a ton of Lions news, and do you want to save the Tigers and what I'm sure won't be maybe as much positive stuff for the end, or you want to hit
Just keep losing. So I
Wings
don't know what
free
the fuck there is
agency
to
here?
talk about. I guess
True.
Casey Mize to the IL. Shocker. It's not like he was ever hurt before. Um,
A lot of positivity
I don't
about.
know. Let's skip the negative shit for now.
Fair
And
enough.
go to the little less negative shit. I guess there's good and bad with the Wings.
There
Where
is.
obviously you have a draft class that a lot of people talked about it. Probably the most obvious pick for them. And I still can't pronounce his name. Um, so I don't even know if I want to try.
Go for it.
Brandsig Nygaard or whatever.
We'll
Nygaard.
learn.
I'm
We'll
sorry.
learn.
What's up?
We'll learn.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get
Who,
there.
you just had all the reports. He's a good skater. He can produce offensive chances. Not necessarily a shooter, but
Mm.
he can create space. Like everybody said, I don't know who else they would have taken at that pick. Being around midway through the draft, the
I
big
was gonna
news I
say.
wanted to talk about was there were rumors, not just yesterday, but the day before, that the Wings were either finalizing or in heavy discussions with the Rangers about Jacob Trouba. And my ears just started ringing. Shane Gostisbehere is gone now. I think he went back to Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that one. But I know they also extended offers to Sider. Let me see here. Yeah, Sider, Raymond, Bergeron, and Joe Valeno, which I think were pretty expected. Um, what I did not expect and what kind of blew my mind was what happened with seems to be the rumor with what happened with Jacob Trouba
with his wife.
with his wife. It's just coming from all angles now
Yeah.
that people don't want to be here. We're using residency now. I'm saying that, and I am fully expecting if you're one of the people that's listening to this, I am fully expecting any med student to angrily go into their comment section right after I say this and say, "Well, she can't do this, she can't do that." The reason that supposedly that he wants to stay in New York is his wife, her residency was supposed to be done this year, got pushed another year, and so he doesn't want to leave.
Tough. I mean, we talked
Not
about it
I'm
with
not
the
even gonna
Pistons
go
too.
into, like, the
We're not
obvious
a
thing that, like
destination.
but that's the extent we're going to now.
You're pissed that his wife can't leave?
Yes, I'm fucking livid. Are you kidding me? This guy is a madman.
Yeah.
He's a madman. I mean, nobody will ever reach the Cronwell level, but watch, like if you're watching this, go pause and go watch Jacob Trouba, like, hits highlight videos. He's that kind of dirty, just get in the mud, lay the wood. Like, he's that
Fits the
guy that I
frame.
was like, oh, like, please, I don't care what it's gonna cost, just do it.
Do you think that was sort of the idea? And I don't want to give too much credit to Iserman, but the you get rid of Waldman and you sort of immediately thought
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
that's the deal
At
you're
least
sort
I
of
don't know
setting
what
up
else.
for?
It would be a defenseman of that caliber would be my
Yeah.
guess. Um, and it sounds like that. I don't know that like the deal that officially fell through. That was just a rumor. Was that he was
Mhm.
putting the no trade clause on it? I don't know. I should have seen it coming. Obviously I didn't. But
How could
what
you have
didn't?
seen that his wife has residency
No,
in
no,
New
no, no, no,
York
no. Not
coming?
that I should have seen his wife coming out of the woodworks for their residency shit. I'm saying I should have seen, knowing that he had a no trade clause, he had the 16 team, that there was going to be some shit
Yeah.
that blocked that trade. I did not know that it was going to be his wife and her residency.
My brother's in med school right now. Shout out to him. I
Is there like no like transfer portal? Can we get like a
have
transfer
no
portal
idea.
for hospitals real
I was
quick?
gonna say I'll have to
Like
find out from him.
I don't know. And there very well could be the whole rule that you have to stay with wherever you are,
Maybe.
and doesn't mean I'm not going to be mad about it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be mad about it. What I am not excited for in the least is Jack Campbell.
Why is that?
The text I got from a buddy of mine after that signing was prediction. First in his first start, Jack Campbell defecates himself in net, and the Wings become the laughing stock of the league once again. And no, I'm not saying he loses the game. I'm saying he literally shits his
Shit
pants.
himself. Yeah. Okay. Are we really feeling that poorly about this?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. The fact that we're
I was
spending, and
trying to
yes,
talk you down a little
it's
bit.
only it's what's up?
I was trying to talk you down a little bit.
No, good luck. Um, the guy had a .8 save percentage.
I'm not saying it's pretty, but are we just going to implode on him like that? I'll take that
Yeah,
silent.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. At least for
All
now,
right.
we are.
We'll focus on the positives then. You do get Patty Kane back for a year, and we know
You
that for a
do.
long time that was sort of up in the
That was
air.
up in the air, and
Kane.
this is what I will say, I saw a perfect argument on this the other day where, yes, like, there were also, I think, shockingly to, I think, most people that aren't Wings fans, there was
Mm,
not a lot of people that did not want Kane back, and you can look at his age and say,
what,
maybe
35?
he's, but look at what Steven Stamkos just got from the Preds at his age. This
Mm,
is a guy that's still giving you 20 Stamkos that's still giving you like 20, 30 plus goals a year. Um, Speaking of, I also was again. It was like it's more the teasing of like hearing the Red Wings are in the talk or in the conversation with all of these guys like
Mhm.
Stamkos, Truba, and then it just doesn't happen. So
It's tough.
um, it is tough. It'll be good to have Kaner back. I just don't think I will be. I'll be very nervous about the season if we go into the season with the defense that we have right now. There's not enough defensive depth, or really the offensive depth is okay. It's not necessarily impressive.
Mhm.
I know Stevie Y, the big Christian Fisher guy, he is re-signed him for another year, but
I mean,
who knows?
you're also only, what, 3 days or something, 2.5 days into
But
free agency?
that was the thing is like if you look at the the day after day 2 of free agency, the top
Yep.
15 remaining UFAs ranked by points last season. Number 1 is Joe Pavelski, and in parentheses next to it, it says not officially retired. Number 2 is Tarasenko, who was like a third liner for the Panthers. Yes, they did just win a um, Stanley Cup, so I'm not going to completely shit on him. Daniel Sprong, who was a Red Wing that, kind of went like this, had an okay year. Van Riemsdyk, Tyler Johnson, like the top 10 were gone in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And
It's
it was
actually
an absolute frenzy yesterday. Now I think we're past the free agency market and people are more delving, and I think you're going to see more trades
mhm.
as the next week or so goes on. Um, but again, I think the Wings just need that key defenseman, and then I'll feel a little bit better about the season.
Now, to be fair, it's pretty similar in the NBA. I don't know why I said to be fair. That doesn't make you feel any better, nor should it, about the Red Wings. But it sort of happened the same way where it hasn't in the last couple of years done this. A lot of times there's sort of a waiting period and there's one or two big fish, so to speak, in the NBA that sort of need to fall, the first dominoes to kick everyone else off. But not the case this year. Paul George, which was by far the biggest name, same thing. You snap your fingers and he's gone within the first couple hours of free agency. Um, Clay Thompson was gone very quickly. He's at the Mavs, something that we predicted, not him going to the Mavs, but him leaving for a long time. Um, and suddenly, outside of DeMar DeRozan, who's also getting up there, he's 35 now. Um, the best free agent really left is Buddy Heald, who is a good shooter, who is a good shooter and will help a
It's always
team,
good.
I'm
It's just you go
sure.
Paul George, and then boom.
And then they're all of the guys are sort of off the board now. All of the big names and it's just sort of the same thing as we've run pretty quickly through our guys here, and we're really left in the half dozen with just the Tigers. And I know we sort of avoided talking about them, but they continue to slip here in the standings. 8 games now below 500 and a whopping 15 games back from the AL Central lead. Granted, the Guardians continue to just be ridiculously phenomenal out of nowhere. And so it means a little bit less that you're back that much in this division in particular. But still, struggling are the Tigers right now. And
I
thoughts, does it
wonder if a
get
team has
better?
ever been this bad with a Cy Young Award winner.
They
Because
might not even get that.
When Scooble gets that award, how bad is it? How pathetic and how sad is it going to look when this team barely cracks like the 70 win mark, if that?
A, very. B, it might be even, worse, little insult to injury that we might not even get that with the way Seth Lugo's playing on the bump for Kansas City.
Yeah. Which I mean, they obviously they have Bobby Witt, but the young core on that team just kind of came out of nowhere.
Dude, it's the power of friendship. It's the Knicks right now, bro. It's Bobby and the boys and a prayer. And they're for some reason their pitching staff, well, not for some reason, they're all just playing really well. But for some reason, their pitching staff, if you remember, was not going to be very good. And you've got Lugo leading a charge of guys who are all just churning out quality starts like it's nothing. The fact that they're in the same division as you as well, sort of them and the Guardians both being surprisingly very good teams this year, I think hurts you even more because realistically 38 and 46 is bad. Losers of 4 out of the last 5-year ball games, bad. But 38 and 46, realistically going into this season, should get you within like 5 games of the lead right now, but it's just not the way that it's panning out, and this team is looking more and more like a complete playoff miss this year.
Yeah. I don't know. It's also Jack Flaherty, I think, is also to the IL. What kind of struck a chord with me was seeing I don't remember where it was, but seeing an article with the headline, "The Tigers are obvious sellers, but who do they trade?" And just like, damn, we're back into this point.
Yep.
Um, and I think Jack Flaherty's a big key to that. He's obviously had a hell of a year so far. It is just sad that our hitting has been, that much of a letdown.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that like the one key point is the fact that they haven't called Spencer Torkelson back up. The fact that that's something like at
It's
this
been a
stage is
while now.
a little bit worth celebrate. I don't know.
Is it what,
I
3
don't know.
full weeks now? Maybe more? When did we
Yeah,
have Chris
something
Ryan?
like that. I
Right
say
around
keep him
there,
down there. Just unless he just is like
lighting it up.
his unless his OPS just goes through the fucking roof,
Mm,
he needs to stay.
hard to
Um,
argue.
and with all that said, I think before I get too sad and angry with it,
Is it
is
time?
it time?
I
Is
think
it
it's
that
time.
time for our top five
I'm
centers? How do you
super
want to do
excited
this? You want
about
to go
this.
5-5, 4-4, or just go down the list and then
I think I like that plan. 5-5, 4-4-3, and go all the way up. Though, there we Detroit's had plenty of great centers, but once we get up there, I think we'll speed it up a little bit, knowing that who's left.
if you don't know why our number ones are our number one and our number twos are our number two, then do your fucking
We'll,
research.
we'll talk about them, but
Yeah.
they'll probably be pretty similar. But yeah, this is the 5 best centers in Michigan sports history, and that's centers in football, that's centers in basketball, and that's centers in hockey. We've got 3 sports to pull from here for our Detroit centers. You want to go first, or I'll go first?
It's all you. Do you have any honorable mentions?
I do. I've got Datsuk in a honorable
That's
mention.
I was just about to say he's an honorable mention. He did not make the cut. He would be right at 6.
For you
Um,
too?
right at 6.
Hey, we're
Probably
starting
would be
off.
5 if I didn't feel guilty without having a Lions center in there.
Perfect wavelength. I was thinking the exact same thing. That's
So,
awesome.
well, who if we have the same number 5, then I
Number
feel like
5, Dominic Raiola,
God damn it, we're gonna
first
have the same
Lion,
list.
the first Lion to ever start 200 games, spent his whole 14-year career with the Lions, basically 13 and a half of them as a starter. But we've got Dominic Raiola, the both of us, at number 5.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
also a big thing was the 0-2 offensive line only allowed 20 sacks that season, which was the lowest in the NFL and was then a franchise record. I think he did it again in 2003. So it was obviously a key point of a team that
the anchor,
really
bro.
sucked.
True.
Um,
That's true.
but obviously, like you think that era, one of the I guess bright spots you do think of is everybody knows. If you are a Lions fan, you know the name Dominic Raiola.
I got something for you. Actually, his son was on my little brother's flag football team.
Is it his son or his like nephew or something?
It
Someone
might be his
related to
nephew.
him.
Oh, because his son is like playing Nebraska. He's at
Yeah,
Nebraska.
his son was like the
Yeah,
number one recruit in the class of 25
it
and is
might have
committed
been him.
to
I'm trying to
Nebraska.
remember who it was because we could see him like he'd sit way off to the side behind all the other parents at like a picnic table in the middle of nowhere watching. But who's your number? My 2 through 3 gets a little bit, or 2 through 4,
Yeah,
excuse me.
it's his son Dylan signed with
Yeah.
Nebraska. I think he's a QB.
He is
So
a QB. He is a phenomenal QB. But who's your number 4?
my number 4, I don't know if you would know this name, Alex
Probably not.
Delvecchio.
No. Run me
So
through it.
three time Stanley Cup champion, was the third ever member of the 1,000 Point Club.
Ooh,
Hall of Famer, was listed in the top 100 NHL players of all time. Was a huge name in the 40s, 50s. He was kind of right after the grind line in a way. Um, and top tier center would be kind of awful to leave him off the list. So
That was sort of the trouble. There were a couple of big name Lions from like the 40s and 50s, and I was like, I don't know if this really like counts. Football's a little bit different, obviously, because it's changed a lot. But my number 4 is Bob Lanier, one of now 3 first overall picks in Pistons history. Helped lead them really for more than a decade there in the 70s, and most people remember the 80s and the handoff to Isaiah Thomas into, some other Pistons. I'm not naming them because they may come up in just a second here, but the the guy that sort of started all of that was Bob Lanier. Mostly old heads, but there are sort of some people who would argue they want him higher. But I did factor in a little bit to my decision, like winning and championships. And Bob Lanier had I think 3 winning seasons with the Pistons in that 70s decade, which were completely on him. Like he's the reason they were anywhere close to winning, let alone like 8 games above 500. But still, that's why I've got him at number 4. Your number 3?
number 3, Bill Embiid,
Hell yeah, same.
the bad boy. I don't think there's too much I have to say on this. I did not realize. I had no idea. This is how much I pay attention to shit, which is bad since I'm talking on a podcast. But he's been coaching in the WNBA for like
Yeah,
he's still coaching. I knew he was
a
a coach,
really
but
good
is he
coach.
still with the Aces
No,
or
not
something
anymore.
like that? Oh,
No.
okay.
He might be an assistant coach or something, but he was a very good. I mean, he was multiple time chip winner, and what did he coach in Chicago? I think for a little bit too. But yeah, he's the ultimate. You love him or you hate him, but you watched. Probably should be 3 chips, but he did get us 2. He almost, I think you're exactly right. Alex speaks for himself. Bill Lambier at number 3, and we might have the same top 3. Who's your
Funny,
2?
funny Bill and beer story. We used to have we used to go up to Harbor Springs a lot. We had family up there, and like the little complex we were in. A friend of ours told us there was Bill Lambier had a house up there at one point, and they completely knocked down the front doorway because he would just get so pissed off trying to walk in and hit his head that they knocked it down and built a higher one just because he like was losing his mind and he kept hitting his head.
That's pretty great, actually.
It's like the one Bill Lambier story I've always remembered that any time he gets brought up in our family.
That's pretty good. You got number 2?
Number 2, Sid Abel. Is he your number
Oh,
2?
oh, dude.
Okay, at least for Wings fans, I don't think I even need to. He was the center on the um oh my god. Um
Get there.
on the production line, the line with Gordie Howe and Ted Lindsay, probably the best line in hockey history. I don't even think it comes close. He was part of 3 cup winning teams. He like Devecchio, they were both in the top 100 hockey players of all time, which that list came out, I think, in 2017. Hall of Famer, and I guess, again, he was the center on the greatest line in hockey history. I
Mm.
don't know how else there's no 2 ways about it.
Well, if it's any surprise to our longtime listeners, I'm stilting more basketball. He's stilting more hockey. But my number 2 is Ben Wallace. Uh,
I would have had him as an honorable I was honestly I was deciding between him and Lambier.
yeah,
I think the Bad Boys era had a lot more to write home about if I'm being completely honest. So
true.
I think that's probably why I went with him.
I guess I did play, now that you're saying that, a little more fast and loose with how much I factored in winning to each of these guys. But he did still bring home a chip, and another guy that realistically should have brought home a second went to 7 in '05. But the greatest defensive center of all time in his prime, maybe the greatest defender in NBA history, period. He is the fro. He is the GOAT. And uh, part of what made his game so cool to watch was he was undersized and battling it out, and that meant his prime was a little bit more short-lived than some other sort of big-bodied centers, because as soon as he lost that step of quickness, It was maybe harder of a drop off than you would expect with a guy of his caliber, but phenomenal dude, Ben Wallace, who now is pretty active working with the Pistons organization. So cool to see him back and around. But hopefully, we have the same number one here.
Well,
Give it
did you
to
go
me. Give it to
basketball
me.
or
I
hockey?
did not. We went hockey.
Okay, so it's Steve Y.
Yeah, it's got to be
All
Stevie
right.
Y. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're at least in the same boat there.
We started and we ended at the same boat, so that's
But
good.
the 2, 3, and 4 were pretty different. That
Very
I would not have expected that.
yeah. I
And again, I think you have to leave Dotsick as an honorable mention, but when you go back to the history, of that was the age of wings hockey, was that Gordie
mm,
Howe era. And obviously he wasn't a center, but like the guys that played around him, I think were better. Not only I think he
mm.
made them better as much as they made him better. So
Well, I
uh,
think this was a great little
good
ranking
little list.
challenge thing there. Yeah, list that we did.
I
If there's
never
anything,
realized I never realized how much controversy Raiola had, and I guess I was younger when he was. I mean, he wasn't even born that in that, or I guess I wasn't even 1 year old yet in that '02 year. But you go to his personal life on Wikipedia. No, his professional career, and you'd think you were reading Ndamukong Suh's Wikipedia page because it's just all of his controversy. Like December 9th, 2008, he was fined by $7,500 by the Lions organization after he made obscene gestures toward heckling Lions fans after Detroit fell to 0-13. Um,
75K by the way in '02 is crazy
yeah, that's a
because
lot.
yeah,
Something else about him taking cheap shots, and unnecessary reference stuff. Like I was like, am I reading
maybe
Ndamukong
we
Suh
were
or am
too
I
young.
reading Dominic Raiola? But if you're listening to this and you think we were way out of whack, send us your list. Send us
Or if you've
other
got
top
another
fives you
list
want us to
idea.
do, so they're not
Exactly.
coming out of my brain. That would help a lot. But
I
no,
don't know about
I would
you.
not have expected to have a different middle in the same top five. I honestly, I did not know if you were going to go more hockey or basketball with number one. I would not have been surprised if you didn't go Steve White number one.
I I think it's obvious. I think even though I'm much more basketball than I am hockey, you still gotta make the list as objective as possible, which probably should have meant me leaving Bob Lanier off this list. But it is what it is. I think we got a nice, healthy little mix there. We still bookended it well, and for
Yeah,
the same reasons, I really only put Raiola on there because we needed a lion because we're doing all three sports.
and I mean he's memorable. I think you think
Oh,
that
for
not
sure.
that you want to think of that era of Lions football, but when you think of that time, like one of the guys that stands out to you is that name for better
Sure.
or worse.
It's a
Here's
good point.
another one that got thrown around the other day that I hadn't heard in years. Javid Best. When was the last
I don't
time you
know
heard that
who.
name? Javid Best, Joik Bell,
Joy
uh,
Bell. Oh
names
man.
you just don't think about. That's another thing, and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's just Detroit. It's probably not just Detroit people, but one other thing some buddies and I like to do is you'll just throw out like the most obscure player. You can
Oh
do it
yeah.
with baseball really easily because there's just so many guys
So many dudes.
like I don't know, Placido Polanco, Ramon Santiago. I think if you're ever bored with buddies or something like that, and you're sports guys, you got to try to think of the most without googling it, the most
I guess
obscure name.
you're not on TikTok. That's a big trend on TikTok. Is just slide. You can post
Oh, so
pictures of
TikTok's just
slideshows.
stealing my trend ideas, I
It
see,
is.
without me even
It
being on the app. What the hell
and
is
you can
this?
post slideshows.
Bullshit.
So you'll get to slideshows where it's just like 15 pictures in a row of that. It's just like the guy's name, and you go like, "Oh shit, I remember him. I remember him." It's funny.
That might be where we go with the Twitter here if we ever need a
Fact,
direction. Just
dude.
start tweeting random names.
Shout out Devin Bush, bro.
Holy shit, yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's such a good one. J.U. Chesson. That was a great era. I love that era of
Oh,
Michigan.
are we including Michigan football? If we're going there,
We gotta stop. We gotta stop. If we start now, we're gonna be,
I got one. I got
another
one.
20 minutes. Give me one. Give me it.
Vincent Smith.
I like the way this list goes. This is
But
fun game, dude.
we gotta again. You're the editing expert, so we might have to include the clip of him getting just pummeled by Jadeveon Clowney in there. Um, But
Wow,
again,
dude, we're
and I,
supposed to be
I
pro
I know
Michigan sports on here.
I'm gonna say this every week. Where you completely fucked us with your on this day a few weeks ago because we will never hit that bar. But
Okay.
I want to say it was July 6th, 2010, and hopefully we can get the clip on here or something. Um, Johnny Damon, who people forget played for the Detroit Tigers, hit a walk-off two-run bomb. I want to say it was a two-run bomb against the Orioles. And on that same day, also had his 2,500th hit in his career. A guy that was more notable for being an Oakland A and then a Red Sox. If you ever watched Moneyball, yes, that's who that is. Played for the Tigers towards the back half of his career, and that was one of the more notable moments, which I was able to find, kind of digging through the internet for that one.
It's a good one.
So shout out to good old Johnny Damon. I don't know. I was gonna say I wish I had his hair, but at the same time, I don't know if that's true. I mean, he was like all the way down past his
Yeah,
shoulders, and I just don't think that'd be a good look for me. Um,
I could see you
or
pull it off.
I don't know.
You
I don't
just
know. It
never
gets
don't
long.
have a
It just
hat on
goes like this.
or hard
Yeah,
to
that's
tell.
facts. You will never see me without a hat on, and I know
This
everybody says I'm gonna go bald. I did read something the other day that's a myth. So,
that what?
like you know how everybody
Oh, when
says
you always wear a
you wear a
hat. Yeah.
hat all the time, you're gonna go bald. Somewhere I read the other day that that's a myth, and I don't even know if that was like a good source or not, but I'm rolling with it
Yeah,
because
you don't read anything more. You're like, I
nope,
affirmed
I
my
got my
belief.
answer.
We're good
I
running away
got my
from it.
answer. I've been on a bit of a cold streak with the
Betting
gambling
wise,
recently, responsibly on a cold streak. Um,
only bet what you can lose. But yeah, that we love our on this day in Michigan sports history, even though it's the dog days and there's not a lot going on. Because historically it's like, all right, what goes on at this time? Baseball and maybe some big free agent signings, like we got Cade in the draft as last week's. But as far as picks of the week, I think last week I went 1-1 because I stupidly doubled down and said a Royals win. I think it was Friday night and Saturday night instead of just picking one. I should have just went with my gut and said whatever whenever Lugo started because he did get a win. His 11th win, by the way, which I believe leads the majors or ties for the lead in the majors. Um, but I went 1-1 last week. I think you made two picks too. Is that right, Alex?
I I want to say I did, and the worst part is I can't remember which one my baseball one was.
We'll find it.
Um, because I want to say I had the Yankees, and yeah, I did, and they got blown out by the Mets. It wasn't even close. So that was a bad loss.
Mm.
For that one, I do have another golf pick. I'm bringing the golf picks back,
Okay.
and this is just more of a fun one. I like this week we have the John Deere Classic.
Goondy.
Not the most prominent field
No, everybody's
ever.
gone, dude. It's depressing.
Everybody's gone. Um, but I do like actually, you know what? Both of mine are going to be golf picks this week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Um, I like Jordan Spieth top 20 at plus 115, and I like let me just find it, confirm the odds. Joel Damon top 40 at plus 115 as well. Joel Damon kind of went like this in the Rocket Mortgage, where he had that round where I think he shot like 8 under, then finished like with plus 4. I think he gets back on track, goes with that one. And then Jordan Spieth historically kind of dominates the John Deere from what I remember. I think he's had
Mm.
2 wins there. It might have been his first win. Was there? I'm not sure.
Was okay. See
Um,
that much I didn't know, but I was gonna
so
go with money on Spieth anyways. So I love tailing you with Jordan there. Though I'm gonna step it up just to be unique and probably end up losing. I'm gonna go Jordan top 10 at plus 240. Obviously a little bit riskier, but fuck it. And I did two picks last week, and you just did two picks, so I gotta sort of stick with that line here, and I'm gonna do something stupid and bet on the Tigers, and uh, I'm not going to. It's a little bit tougher because you can't tail this one because it's for tonight. But I've got Scooble over 6.5 strikeouts. Scoob starts tonight on the mound versus the Twins. I think it's a 640 or 6:40 Central first
Yeah.
pitch. And yeah, the over is at 6.5. If you want to go down to 5.5, because it's plus 105 to get that plus, or to get, excuse me, to get that over 6.5, I like him picking up at least 7Ks. So those are my two picks for the week there. And
Just a little stat for you. Scooble is 3-3 with an ERA of 3.53 and with 47 strikeouts and 10 appearances against the Twins. Last time out was in April,
mm,
and I think it was a home game. Went 5 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts.
oh, don't tell me that. Man,
Has
okay,
only
that's okay.
had has only had 7 or more strikeouts against the Twins once, and that was in 2021.
Fuck off.
So who knows? Maybe he's due.
He's
Maybe
due.
he's
He's
due.
due.
He's
Yeah,
due.
maybe this was a terrible pick, but we're sticking with it. We just made it. And yeah, I think that's it for the show. Unless you got anything else, we covered
No,
all of the bases.
definitely keep looking on our socials for more stuff. If you have any ideas of stuff you want us to cover, let us know for our, obviously not,
It's a
we're not
dog
getting
days of
hundreds
summer,
of
man.
hundreds of thousands of views, but hopefully by, the when we have more stuff to talk about, we will. Or if it's not a clip of Jack,
Well, we don't have
which
much
we
left.
didn't talk about. Congrats to him.
Yes,
OKC Thunder Summer League, which is big news. Obviously, he came on here and he talked about the fact that he'd already done that camp and he felt pretty good about it.
Mm.
Sorry to our good buddy Luke, who was hoping to get him on the Pacers, but
Still might happen.
yeah, I guess it is just summer league, but who
Yeah.
knows? But congrats to him. Friend of the program, friend of the pod. So our hats off to him, and hopefully the Wings pick up a half decent defenseman by the time we talk next.
There because there's free agency still going on. It's dog days of summer, so there's not a lot of active gameplay outside of the Tigers, but plenty of Detroit and Michigan sports news rolling in. So drop a follow, drop a like, drop a comment, whatever you're doing. Go follow us on our socials. We're Pure Michigan Sports everywhere. And one more time, thanks for joining us.